Hello, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is lesson 63. League level team positional usages part 2. We're going to focus on the tight end and the wide receiver. Suggest you go to lesson 62 to catch QBs and RBs. First, I give a little more background that I'm going to here. So, I'm assuming you had already seen lesson 62. So let's try to win your fantasy football drafts this year and get you to the championship with my video textbook lessons here. So let's talk about the tight end. And if you've seen my team by team previous block of 16 previous lessons, then you know I love to delve into positional usages, how teams use their specific positions, and I like a 5-year window and of course last year, and then make comparisons between the two. And I did that at the team to team. This is stepping back out and looking across the league kind of as a landscape view. So across the league, who was really using their tight ends and who wasn't? I think that's important to at least master that material for your 2021. So let's, without further ado, let's unveil who's who and what's what. And we have simple metrics: team position, 5-year positional usage, 2020 positional usage, and the difference in percentages between the 5 and the 20. I sorted from highest to low, and highest meaning that 2020 was a banner year for a team's tight ends and they were used heavily, and the low would be teams that did not use their tight ends well and in fact saw a decline. And the data is a little bit more stable than we have seen previously with the running backs. So I talk a little bit about that, but here we see a big swath of teams that had really no change. Okay. And the teams in red, light red and deep red, saw declines, and light green and deep green saw increases. The extremes are kind of on the short end. Miami, Denver, and the Raiders saw the best, 5%. Those are where some of your tight end ones are probably coming this year. I think people know Gesicki, Fant, and Waller. That's going to get you a lot of attention. And Waller's probably getting the most play of those three, but I'm telling you that if you're playing like a streaming tight end, if you could grab a Gesicki or Fant, I think you're on your way to managing a tight end, a good tight end play for the year. Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay, the Rams, Cleveland, Chargers, New Orleans, and the Giants did pretty good too. And of course, we had those in yellow that really didn't improve. And I will note that if you look at the -3 teams, maybe they should have been deeper red. I maybe should have put them deeper, but I didn't. Seattle, Baltimore, Indianapolis, Buffalo, Cincinnati had -3% or worse, and Carolina and New England pretty much punted on their tight ends. I'm not drafting Carolina or New England tight ends. I do know that New England tried to change that, and having Hunter Henry and Smith, maybe that does change it. If it's going to change, it's going to definitely be in New England. I'm cautious. Let's just say I would prefer having one of the top higher usages and then maybe pair it with one of these lower plays for a streaming option. I think that's how I would play that, but I certainly my late tight ends would not necessarily be, Carolina and New England. So just kind of start getting your hand around that. I give you a visual look-see at blue line is 5-year usage, red line is 2020, and the differences in purple from high to low differences here. And of course, 0 here, probably right in this range here. Pretty much those teams didn't change. Here are the strong ones. Maybe I'll do red. Yeah. So here are the nice ones. Here are the ones that really concern me. And look at the gaps here, 2020 versus the 5-year average versus 2020 versus the 5-year average here. Look at that gaps even here with Cincinnati and Buffalo didn't do too well either. So I'm definitely really concerned. Seattle, Baltimore, etc. Even Andrews, people are picking him up, but let's just say I'll take him if I gotta, but I would look to try to get maybe others. I'm not sure his season's as wide open, his ceiling's as high as you think it is. Just be aware. In best ball, I'm definitely grabbing, but I usually grab 2 or 3 tight ends anyway. So I'm trying to pair Andrews with some of the top plays there, Gesicki, Fant, that kind of thing to try to balance that out. Okay, so the strong versus the weak. So just start getting at your fingertips those teams here. And like I said, New England tried to do something. Carolina, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Indianapolis, Baltimore, Seattle, I'm not sure they did. So the only one that might move up would be, I think, New England of that crew. At least right now, that's what my thinking is on that. And if you follow my other lesson, you know I do something called scale usage to the league average. So I took 2020 positional usage, found the average, which was average of about 13% or so, and I subtracted that from these averages here, and 13 something percent from 22 is 8.6. So if you look at the scaled usage, that can change the metrics, and notice that Philadelphia, and again I count both tight ends now, is number 2 as far as scaled usage last year. So just be aware of that. Kansas City, of course, Kelsey. Tennessee, losing Smith, I don't know if they can replace him. Of course, Kittle was injured, so San Francisco. So I'm thinking there's some interesting possibilities here in this group. Certainly from 2.6 up, I'm interested. And again, concerns exist for me, probably even up to this point here. But I think Dallas is that Dak was injured. So I'm thinking that Jarwin and whatnot will be a better play and move up to there. Just kind of start getting your metrics together, but be cautious about some of these plays in here. I'm almost my do not draft tight ends are in on some of these teams. Jacksonville, Arizona, Jets, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Carolina. Not really having a strong case for me to take their tight ends. Only New England, and we've talked about that, has some possibilities there. But they've drafted 2, so it's like they can't figure out which one's going to do it. So we'll see. If we look, I think here's the best plays, and we have the worst plays here, the extremes, and these teams make sense, and we have some pretty good ones even down to here. and some that are still of an issue even down to this level here. So I would be seriously concerned here and looking to invest in tight ends from these teams here. I think you'll pretty much catch who you need to catch in that group and avoid some of these issues here. Yeah, like I said, really would stay away. So in some ways, the extremes really point to who, I guess being more of a pessimist kind of catches me in such a way. It's like, yeah, I can take a gamble on some of these medium ochre ones or something, but I definitely want to stay away from teams that are not using their tight ends much. That does scare me. And so I, allow this data to point to those teams for me. Wide receiver, same situation I just went through. Here are the differences from high to low. So plus 11 down to minus 8. Oh my goodness. And here are the deep greens. Here's the top 4. Carolina, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Dallas. So I think pretty much the public's on cue with all these. And I'm not sure. Carolina may be a little underused. You might find some bargains there. But other than that, but they really upped their game. 11, 10%, 7%, and Dallas even 5% without Dak. That's nice. The concerns of the Raiders, Detroit, Stanford left, so maybe that's why he's maybe in decline. Just be aware of that. Green Bay, Rodgers. I think Green Bay was rushing more. So this doesn't give you a distinction between teams that are trying to balance out their rushing with passing versus, here's just looking at the wide receivers. New Orleans with Thomas in and out sick. I'm not sure this is a real number, but Breeze is gone. Miami was an issue, okay? And a lot of people are taking some of those wide receivers in Miami. I would be a little cautious. Minus 8 there. Not sure where Miami's going. So I think these set us up to, think about the highs and the lows. Here are the strong teams, the weak teams. And if you're going to get a wide receiver from a weak team, just realize that wide receiver ones from the weaker teams are not the same as wide receiver ones from strong teams. I think if I haven't talked about that data, I should have. And, it's been 60-something lessons. I know I've done that data from strong versus weak teams. And there's a difference statistically in wide receivers from weak teams and strong teams. So just be aware of that. Don't be thinking you can replace a wide receiver one from a strong team with a weak team. It's just not going to happen. Okay. So use this metrics again to try to find the plays that are the strong wide receiver using teams and probably avoid, and definitely in PPR, maybe in standard leagues, you don't have to worry as much, but definitely in PPR, you're definitely skewed to the stronger using teams there, and that's where you want to collect. And so if there are any sleepers, wide receivers, they may come from the higher teams as far as usage versus the weaker ones. So let's see, what else? When we scale the numbers, some things do change. The Raiders does move up here. Take a look. I kept the same coloration here. It moves up. And Dallas moves down a little bit. But here are some of the nice teams here, 2.4 above the league percent. And here are the declining teams here. So people are liking the Washington plays. New England plays. Tennessee, just be aware. that it's not just clear sailing. Okay, look at some of these plays in here. It should make you consider what's going on this year. I'm not saying that there is not going to be flux this year. I'm just saying this is where we need to start a reference, right? Reference class forecasting. We have to start somewhere, and here's what the data is showing us. This is where we start. Doesn't mean we finish here time we draft, but this is the starting point. Tell me why, Indianapolis moves up, or tell me why Green Bay was minus 2.6 last year. Tell me what's going to move up this year. That kind of thing. Those are the questions you need to address. So probably your wide receiver ones tend to come from here. And by the way, Brandon Cooks, he's pretty good. Even if Watson isn't the quarterback, you may still get a bargain. He's pretty cheap in best ball right now. Do be aware of that. Okay. What else? Oh, I think I graphed it. Yeah, so I grafted the scaled usage. Here are the stronger teams here. Here are the weak teams there. And I definitely would be concerned about some of the deeper running backs, wide receivers for sure, from these leagues, and be a little bit more draft friendly to the deeper wide receivers from these leagues. Just kind of a tendency. It's not like a rule I got to follow to the letter, but there's a trend. And again, this is where we start. Let's try to figure it out, use it to our advantage. Very interesting data. Love to see this. It definitely encapsulates a lot of interesting material that I think is going to be of use in 2021 for our drafting. So definitely become familiar with these metrics here. Okay, we will move on to some other material. We haven't quite left all this world yet, but we're getting towards the end here. So please come back for the next lessons, and hopefully we're setting you up to crush your leagues. This is Dr. John Bush and The Process signing off.